Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a new episode of the CAU podcast. This is the podcast in which we cover the Toronto Ultra. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Spencer. With me is Chris. Chris, how's it going?
It's going great. I am so excited that I don't have to wait till the weekend to start watching champs. This is going to be a great week.
This is going to be the week, right? This is, 8 months or however long it's been of the Call of Duty League and putting in all of that work and being a fan of the Ultra and covering the Ultra all culminate. I don't know what's that word, Chris? Culminates to this moment. I was gonna botch that, so thank you for knowing the word I'm talking about. Yeah, this is champs, dude. This is what the entire year has been leading up to. This is for all the marbles. Winning the championship at the Toronto homestand was fantastic. It is considered, a really big feat for this team, but it is nothing compared to champs. So with that out of the way, man, let's just start breaking this bad boy down. I think this episode's going to be, we kind of broke it down previously with, Novus Vita, and we were actually just recently on a podcast by a couple of bots. They reached out to us on Twitter, wanted us to come on that, so that was really fun. We kind of did something similar, but if you guys, just want even more insight, check out that as well. We talk about a bunch of stuff, but on this one, it's going to be, a champs preview, a look on how Ultra can do, how far can we go, who are the favorites and who are the sleepers. And then once we get that out of the way, we'll let you guys go. So with that
what should we cover first? What should we cover first? How far Toronto's going to go?
Yeah.
How far?
I think that's a good one. Let's just start the very first match that I think most people are going to care about, and that's Toronto versus London. Chris, what's going to happen?
Oh, we're going to win. We're going to win 3-2 in my mind. London is higher than us in the standings, but a lot of people have put Toronto even higher than they are, considering how much of a lead up Toronto has had coming into this champs series. And talking to Methods gave me even more, give me even more confidence in the team, knowing that they still have a chip on their shoulder from the whole season. So I think it is going to be close. London is definitely no slouch, and it's going to be very close. And we haven't played them a whole lot too, so it's hard to say, which is why I think it's going to be a 3-2, not a 3-1, not a 3-0, but a 3-2. What about you?
It's funny because I feel like you're more confident than I am that Toronto's going to win that series, and I do have Toronto winning that series, but I actually picked them winning 3-1. I think there's a very real possibility we lose this. I think some people are sort of being like, well, we won the previous championship.
That means you have more confidence. I said 3-2.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's weird. It's like I think there's a higher probability that London beats us, but I think the more likely situation is we win. And I think if we win, I see it being more of a 3-1 because I think our response has been pretty good. And, London's...
Yeah.
I don't know if they're a great S&D team, actually, but they're just a good team. And Wuskin's one of the best players in the league. I just had the 3-1 feeling. You know what I mean? I think Toronto, our domination has been pretty good all year long. We've been able to pull that out. I think we'll win at least one of the hard points, and I think we'll take the search because I think our search is really good, and Cammy might be the best S&D player this entire game. So I sort of have us winning S&D, and I sort of have us winning domination, and I think we can take one of the hard points. That's how I saw it coming.
Cammy can pop off again, but the way he popped off in the last tournament was like a blip in the radar and not the actual radar itself.
Man, you can't. Can you say that, dude? His S&D KD all year is like 1.3. Like he legitimately. Novus was saying he might break a record for S&D kills all season. He's been a.
I thought it was in that one.
No, he's like a top 5 S&D player. Like I think someone COD Stats put out a tweet and it was like S&D KDs over the entire year. He's like number 3. Like, I legitimately think that Cammy is one of the best. I think he's the most improved player. I would love to see what his S&D stats are of, the previous, couple months. And I bet you they're ludicrous. I really think that he's been, the most improved player this entire year. Not just for this team, but arguably in the entire league. And I expect big things out of him and this team going into this game. So, I think it's close. I think there's a real possibility we lose this one. I'm saying 3-1.
Okay, it is close, but, I don't think we understand, how crazy hard he carried an S&D.
I'm not saying he's carry. I think he's really good.
No, I'm just saying the way he played in the last tournament was such a hard carry in S&D. It was nutty. He was winning those 1v2s. He was getting those first picks on sniper. He was making plays with his sniper and with his AR or SMG, whatever, or with his pistol. If he picks it up. He was such a carry. I don't. I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just don't see him playing to that level like he did in the last one, just because it's so such a high level. It's going to be so hard to play at that level again. That's why I think it's going to be a little bit closer. But I still think that we're going to come out, because I think Classic is going to have a better tournament than he did last tournament.
Yeah.
Previously. Well, so I think that'll balance it out too.
Yeah, that was one of the quotes that Methods put up, which was like, Classic, after they said, he said, I just played the worst tournament of my life and we still won. I think this team's going to be really good. I don't think Cammy's a blip in the radar. I really do think that this is going to be something that we're going to see him sort of pop off. And I expect him to have a big S&D showing. So I think they're going to take the first one. I think I also have New York taking it over Minnesota. I don't know if you agree about that as well. I have New York winning 3-1.
I said Minnesota, and that was partially because he's also my like sleeper pick.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about it a little later. So
yeah,
let's hold off that discussion for a little bit. But
I have, and then Optic beating the Gorillas and Paris beating Surge. I assume we're pretty similar on those two games.
Yeah.
So I have a 3-1 versus Optic versus the Gorillas, because I think the Gorillas are just a really good S&D team. They can maybe squeak out one of those. And then I have Paris winning the Seattle Surge 3-0. Although,
same.
If Seattle does beat Paris, I wouldn't be too surprised, because Octane's just one of the best ARs in the game. But I think at this point it's safe to say that Paris is probably the favorite, especially after their second place finish at their most recent tournament. So, yeah. And then moving forward into that, Chicago plays New York. I think Chicago squeaks this out. I think that New York is actually probably my sleeper pick, which again we can get into a little bit later, because I think that New York could absolutely win this game. I just think that Chicago's just got too much experience. They're just too good under pressure, and I think that their S&D's really improved. So I expect them to take that one. And then now we can break down this one a little bit more, and that is the Florida Mutineers versus the Toronto Ultra. So assuming obviously that we win the Royal Ravens game, this is going to be a tough one. So, Chris,
it's going to be very tough.
What do you have this match playing out? And, just give me your thoughts on how this match plays out. Like, who do you have winning?
So, I think, man, it's so hard to say. Like, I want to say Toronto, but I just think that Floyd's been the more consistent team. So, I think if it is going to be lost by Toronto, it's going to be a, 3-2, round 11 type of loss where it's really, really close. I think that the one factor for me that I need to see an improvement in Toronto is Classic. I think that we played at such a peak in our last tournament that's going to be hard to replicate that. And if Classic stays at where he's at with his low from that tournament, then it won't be a good outcome for us against Florida. But I think that even if our standout players like Methods and Cammy don't play as well as they do in the last tournament as they do in this tournament, but Classic still has a better tournament than he did in Toronto, then I think that we'll be able to pull out the win. But I'm just gonna say Florida just by the slightest hair of a margin.
Yeah, I think I don't think Classic played bad last tournament.
No.
He's hit and miss, right? And he's kind of been hit and miss all year. He's been hit and miss, I think, arguably his whole career. When he's on, he can take over a game. Right, like when Classic is on his A game, he is a really, really good sub in this league, and I do think he brings that pop off potential. So I don't think he had a horrible tournament last time, but I do think that he was one of the weaker points. I think if I had to highlight players, he'd be on the lower end of that on our team.
The one thing is that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he was terrible bad either. I'm just saying when you're playing such a good team, you need everybody to be on at least a neutral or consistent, to consistently good basis. If I was to evaluate players, they either played below their current potential, at their potential, or above their potential. I'd say that everybody on Toronto Ultra will need to play at their potential or higher. I don't think you'd argue that Classic didn't play at his potential last tournament.
Yeah, we've seen him have better tournaments.
Yeah, we've seen him at better tournaments, and I think he's going to have to play at least at his potential in that game to be able to beat Seattle Surge.
Yeah,
I mean
Florida Mutineers. Yeah, so I also have Florida beating us 3-2. I think it's going to be a really close game. With that being said, this is a very winnable game for us. Obviously, Florida looked a little bit unstoppable when everyone was running 4 subs and they could flex in the 2 ARs and they win those back-to-back tournaments. But since then, they've looked a little bit more mortal. And again, I love bringing up this stat, but since Kleenex has been in the lineup, Toronto went from a 30% win rate team to a 70% win rate team, map win rate team, and that even includes the one tournament we played a little bit poorly on where we had medals in instead of Classic. Since Classic's been in the lineup, this team went from a top 4 finish to a chip. So I think that this starting five is the best starting five we've seen all year. They performed incredibly well and like pretty consistently. I know that some of this is a little bit overblown by our ability to clutch. Like we went from a team that couldn't win a map 5 to seemingly being able to win every map 5. You know what I mean? And like really clutching up in a lot of situations. So I do think that picking us would be, you're drinking the juice a little bit. Like I think that Florida are the favorites and probably should be the favorites, but man, this is a totally winnable game. The last thing I'm going to bring up is that I do know that I think our team performs better against teams that rely more on like a faster style of play and like a heavier reliance on their subs. That's why I think we've been able to play so well against Atlanta FaZe all season long. Florida Mutineers definitely rely more on their ARs with like, you know, Awakening and Pharaoh's really, really good. And Skies is so incredible. I know Pharaoh's not an AR player, but I forget who plays AR. It doesn't matter. Anyways, they are a very like AR centric team. They have really good ARs in that team and some like MVP candidates. So it's going to be a really tough match. And I think they match up pretty poorly. So we match up poorly against them, but it's winnable. It's very winnable. But yeah, Kleenex and Classic are going to have to pop.
In the losers bracket though, you know, I have subliners being Optic Gaming 3-2.
Oh yeah, our bracket's going to separate it because I have Optic beating Minnesota, and I don't think that New York beating Optic is a bad take at all. It's a pretty good take. But we just have a different bracket there, and then I actually have London beating Paris. So don't tell Novus Vita who's on last week, but I do think the London Royal Ravens are actually able to squeak out that victory. How about you?
I put Paris being London Royal Rams, but that just may be because I'm biased because I just talked to him.
Do you have a 3-2?
3-1. I just feel like
you think they're gonna be able to take 2 respawns off of London?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I think that, you know, getting knocked in the first round is gonna have a mental effect on them.
Maybe.
And your Paris, they know they're in the losers bracket. They're gonna be fighting for life the whole time. They know they can't lose a single game. So I think that there's gonna be a mental aspect that comes into play. And also, it's a big matchup too. You know, the 2 European teams. So I think that. I feel that Paris is going to be able to handle the mentals a little bit better in that sense.
Yeah, and I don't fully disagree. I think it's going to go to map 5. Like I think if Paris does bring it out, it's going to have to be off of their S&D. I have London 3-2, but I think it's going to be a close game. So for that, I do agree. Sure. Then a really exciting game, man. If this happens in the winners bracket round 3, this is gonna. I wonder how many. This is gonna break over 100K viewers. I think easily. Yeah. And that would be Atlanta FaZe versus Chicago Huntsmen. Yeah. I think, man, this could go like 150K viewers. Like I am so excited for this match. I actually have Atlanta FaZe beating the Huntsmen in a 3-2 game. I hope it's that close. I hope it's that exciting.
I have the same too.
Yeah, I think Atlanta FaZe is, in my opinion, the best team in the entire league, especially going into this weekend.
We'll talk about them more. Yeah.
We'll talk about them more later on. And then I have the Dallas Fuel beating the Florida Mutineers 3-1.
Yeah, I have Dallas Fuel. Huh. Dallas Empire.
Oh my god, I said Dallas Fuel.
Come on.
We gotta stop recording these podcasts back to back. The Overwatch and the Call of Duty. I can't handle it, man. I'm saying Toronto Defiant. I'm saying Dallas Fuel. The Dallas Empire beating the Florida Mutineers 3-1. Thank you.
Yeah, I've heard the same thing. Like I think I have Dallas Empire winning 3-2. So, you know, 1 map difference. FaZe being Huntsman 3-2. You know, all top 4 teams hanging out there. You know, I think Empire and FaZe are clearly the better ones. Chicago, I think they are playing a little bit better in the start of the season than they are later on.
Yep.
Scump, you know, I think he's been a great player. He hasn't been as much of a standout as I thought he would.
He's better on land. Scump's been better for sure. I think he thrives with the crowd a little bit more, but he's still a super good player.
Yeah, that's his personality, and I'm not knocking him too. He's still like literally great. But yeah, I think those are the plays. But next up, elimination round 3, Toronto Ultra versus I think yours is
we're gonna be different. Mine's versus Optic, and yours is versus New York.
New York.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay, we can talk both. I'm gonna start with Optic because I think both are 3-2. Personally, I think this is gonna be a really tough game. Either of them. Like I think these are 2 of my big sleepers. Who can really make some noise. I think Optic Gaming has looked incredible with Draws and Hollow in the lineup, and even though we were able to beat them in the previous tournament, that game was a grind, right? Like you said, Kami might not be able to replicate that incredible performance on Piccadilly, but then again, Draza might not be able to replicate his incredible performance as well, right? I think we are a very evenly matched team. I think, it's going to be somebody's going to have to be able to keep up with Draza on that team because he's been a stud. And I do like our chances. I think we beat them more than they've beaten us. And I think that we are riding the high of we've won the previous game, we won the previous tournament, and this team just seems to be clicking, but this will be close.
Yeah, the one thing I think of, and this is purely from a stat standpoint, it's like, after we've beaten them most of our matchups, right? At least most of the recent matchups. How many times are we going to be beating them before they like get a lucky one and they beat us, right?
Well, they did beat us. They beat us before. They beat us in that one tournament. Remember, even
No, I
before
know.
Draws and Hollow were signed, and they just beat
That's what I
us.
mean.
Yeah.
But since Strazo and Hall have been signed, we've been beating them more often than not. So my thought about that is just say, yeah, it's like, when you have a coin that you flip, and I know this isn't a coin, you can only flip heads so many times, right?
Yeah.
Before you get a tails. And that's the easy way to describe it. That's the one thing I'm a little bit scared of, that, by some law of numbers or law of stats, that they're going to be able to have a better chance of winning this.
Yeah. And how about the subliners? Why do you have 3-2 Ultra? Or do you have 3-2 Ultra? Do you have 3-2 subliners?
I have 3-2 Ultra. And this is, it's a little bit of me juicing, like drinking the juice. So
A little bit, but
that's okay. It is. It's a little me drinking the juice because it's really hard to compare these two. I mean, they had some gains earlier on, and New York won some, Toronto won some, and then New York has made it, like, brought them back, and they've had some success, and we haven't played them a whole lot since. So
Yeah,
it is really hard
a few
to say.
tournaments ago, though. They did beat us.
Yeah.
When the tournament they ended up winning, right? We finished top 4 and we lost to them in the semis.
Yeah. So you know what? The reason why we're winning is the same excuse I'm going to use for other ones. Is just that we've come off a high, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think Kleenex was a big reason why we were able to take one of the maps off them in the previous tournament, and I think that Kleenex is going to have to show up because Mac has just been so good, and their ARs on this team are so good. I think we actually match up pretty poorly against the subliner, so I do hope that we are able to avoid them because their ARs tore into us last game, and that was a big reason why they were able to take up the victory.
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. So
and I had the subliners beating the Royal Ravens. Obviously, our brackets are a little bit different. Who do you have taking
London or
Paris and? You have Paris beating, let's say you have Rocker beating Paris?
Yeah.
Why is that?
They're my sleeper team. I think that,
maybe a sleeper team would still lose. I mean,
I know. I think that they, like, with the God exchange, I think I'm hoping that they have something different that's really working out. If you've subbed out one of your best players all season, even though he's fell flat in that post or end of the season, if you sub out one of your best players all season, you better have fucking something in your back pocket.
Yeah.
That you're working at. So I'm just kind of banking on that play.
And we've seen a lot of teams be able to sub somebody out, somebody in, and see a ton of success, right? We've seen, New York brought in Mac, saw a ton of success. Florida brought in Awakening, ton of success. OGLA withdraws a Hollow, ton of success, and obviously Toronto with Kleenex. So this might be one of those, substitutions that Minnesota needs to really pop off. And at the beginning of the year, they were one of the best teams in the league, right? So they have it in them. So I think it's a pretty good sleeper pick from you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Now moving on, I think this is the round that I think if we get to elimination round 4, win or lose, this was a successful champs. I think if we get knocked out before, I would be a little bit disappointed. I think this is a very good measuring stick for a pretty solid expectation. I mean, I would be disappointed, but if we lose an OGLA like it happens, I would still be disappointed though. I think this is where the team should aim for in terms of okay, we've done well. Now, with that said, I think we both have Chicago playing Toronto. Am I correct?
Yes.
How do you have this going?
Chicago 3-2.
Man, I'm drinking the purple Kool-Aid, and I actually have Toronto pulling this one out.
I think Chicago has a fucking chip on their shoulder from getting beat via technicality, kind of, against the last team. They're going to be pissed off. They're going to be hungry for this. And I think that, season overall, they're the better team. And, if you're looking at the stats wise, we play them enough, they're going to be winning most of the time. We beat them last time on technicality. They're hungry. They're hungry for blood right now.
I don't just want to say we beat them on technicality. I mean, we did win with the technicality for sure. Obviously, Pristine legged out, and you can't talk about that game without at least mentioning it. But we did win 2 maps. I think Chicago has so much pressure on them. And if they get to an elimination round 4 against a up-and-coming, young, hungry team like the Toronto Ultra who are riding this hot streak, I think I don't say they crumble because they Formal's got so much experience. Scump's got so much experience. Yep. Envoy doesn't have a ton of experience, but is so good. RC is one of the best ARs. Pristine is really, really good too. Even as I'm saying it, I'm like, this is gonna be a hard game to win. I feel like there's something about this Ultra team that is just really working, especially in this double AR meta, that I think we can take one early. And if we get that first win, that first map win, you might start to see Chicago falter a little bit, especially since they're a weaker search and destroy team. So I think we take the search. They're really, really good at respawn. So I think it's either going to be a 3-1 Chicago, or I think if we're able to bring it to a map 5, we do clutch up that search. And we brought them to map 5s a couple times. I mean, I know we won the last one, but we've lost a few before that. But it seems that we always play them close.
Yeah, you know what? That's also a good take. Like, can't argue too much against that take right there. I think that's a good one.
And then I have Florida beating New York. I assume you have Florida beating Minnesota.
Yeah.
Are we on the same page on that?
We're on the same page on that.
I think Florida's a better team. We don't have to go too much into there.
Yeah,
The winners finals is going to be incredibly close. Atlanta FaZe versus the Dallas Empire. Personally, I think Atlanta FaZe takes this. I know Novus Vita came on the show and talked about how Empire were the favorites and the team that he thought was going to win. I, for the most part, agree with him, but I think that FaZe just has so much firepower. And even though if you look at the recent performances, I totally understand why you would put Dallas Empire in that echelon as being the number one team. But in my opinion, man, with Celium, with Simp, with Abizi, I think that push come to shove, they're going to be able to clutch it out. And maybe I should have actually Dallas winning the first one and Atlanta coming through the losers bracket. But regardless, I have them winning the first match, and I think they're the better team.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have Atlanta FaZe winning too.
I just have a ton of faith in them. And then I have Florida versus Toronto, and you have Florida versus Huntsman. So who do you think is going to win between Florida versus Huntsman? We'll do yours first before we break down the Ultra one a little bit more.
Yeah, I'll go Huntsman. You know, at this point in the bracket, it's a little bit of guesswork here. Like I just know the Huntsman a little more, so I just have more confidence in them. I'm going to be completely honest. There's not a whole lot of analytical prowess to this selection. It could go that way. Yeah,
I think it'll be a close match too. I think if those two do end up playing, I actually do favor the Huntsman too, just based on experience. I think that Florida's sort of tailed off a little bit, and Chicago actually looked really good in their previous match before getting knocked down by the by OGLA. They were probably boomed from that tournament by just losing to the Ultra based off of someone laking out. So I still think that they're probably the more consistent team, the better team. But, we'll see. Now, between Toronto and Florida Mutineers, Chris, I actually have Toronto bouncing back and taking this victory 3-2 over Florida Mutineers.
I don't believe you.
I swear to God.
You're drinking a lot of juice right now.
I have an entire jug of purple Kool-Aid right now because I have elimination round 5, Toronto Ultra still in this tournament and actually pulling out a 3-2 victory. I think that this team has shown a lot of growth and a lot of potential since Kleenexes came into the lineup. And I think that Florida's going to get the better end of us in the first matchup. And I think that I have a lot of faith in our coaching staff to be able to watch the tape, go back. We have that week in between to, sort of prep some things out and then sort of draw up a better game plan against Florida the second time around where we can really show off our strategy. I think this has been a well-coached team all season long. And I think this is going to be a moment where we can really show them what the coaching staff is capable of. Now, with that being said, obviously, would not be surprised if Florida took out the victory. The same reason I wouldn't be surprised if Chicago beat them in the previous round. But I honestly do have the hashtag So Ultra going all the way and actually beating Florida in elimination round 5.
You're crazy, but let's go with it.
How are they going to do that? What's your opinion? How are they going to get that dub?
I don't think they're going to get the dub. That's why they're not in my bracket.
But if they do, right? How can Ultra pull this out?
Cammy's gonna have to play like he did last tournament.
Yep.
Methods is gonna have to stay the same, get some of those 1v2 clutches, and like I said previously, Classic is gonna have to play above his grade.
Yeah.
Classic's gonna have to play like he did in the second half of S&D against Optic Gaming when Cammy clapped. I draws on Hall in the first half, but then he tapered off a little bit. Freaking Classic went, I think it was 0-8 or no, sorry, not 0-8, 0-4.
Oh yeah, he was
0-4, 0-5, and then he got 4 kills or 5 kills in a row without dying.
Yeah,
and then I was like, oh, okay, that, okay, I just want to play like that more consistently, and then yes, that'll be how we beat them.
Okay, and then we have the Dallas Empire versus the Toronto Ultra or the Chicago Huntsmen in the elimination finals. I can't drink that much Kool-Aid, man. I wish I could. I wish I could pick the Ultra over the Dallas Empire, but I do think this is where their Cinderella story comes to an end. Even though we did beat them in the previous weekend, there were some incredibly close matches. We actually beat them 3-1, but I think this is a team that's had their heart set on champs the entire year. I think this is a team that thrives, actually, to be honest, online, right? That's where they first made their name, and now things are going back online. There's the whole service stuff. I think the Dallas Empire do beat us 3-1. I think we get a map. I'd be happy with one map. I think we're able to pull something out there, but I can't pick us beating.
I concur. I concur, man. There's only so many times you can beat these top 4 teams.
I agree.
It is what it is. Like, we consistently don't. There's a reason why we consistently don't. It's because they're freaking amazing. And, I agree. And I have Dallas Empire being Chicago Huntsmen too.
Yeah. So I think that's a good take as well. And then we get to the finals. We get to the Atlanta FaZe versus the Dallas Empire. And I think this is going to be an incredibly close match. I had this going 5-4 for the Atlanta FaZe. And I think the reason I had this going 5-4 is, man, when you play that many maps, a best of 9 versus a team like Atlanta, I just don't think you can shut down Atlanta FaZe and their firepower like that many times. I think if Dallas is going to beat FaZe, it's going to be in the best of 5, not the best of 9. So I do think that you can maybe argue FaZe lose the first one and come through the losers bracket. In fact, I might change that and win at the end. But I think that when push comes to shove, man, and the palms are sweaty and the pressure's on and everybody's watching, and you got your mom's spaghetti and chicken parm next to you, I expect Simp, Celium, and Abizi to really come up clutch and be able to pull this thing out. And I have it close because I think Dallas could easily win this, but I think a 5-4 Atlanta FaZe victory is the play. Especially, I think if they win the first and they actually get the map advantage, I think that's how that works.
They are the best team. Each one of those players is like a Methods. Easy.
No disrespect to Methods, but it might be a little bit better than Methods. Like, Methods is really good. Sim might be a bit better.
Simp, Celium, Abizi, Major Maniac. It's Priesta. Like, there's not a single person that I've watched and been like, man, that guy didn't play well.
They're so good.
They're just really good. They're really good. They're my top pick. I know they're your top pick too, and I think we've kind of explained why they're so good. Throughout this whole kind of breakdown.
My last thing will be, if the Dallas Empire are able to beat this out, it's because they're such a creative team, they're such a smart team that they might be able to throw some looks Atlanta's way that they have yet to see. And
that's the way. That's going to be the play. And I think Dallas is smart enough to know that.
Yeah.
So they're going to be coming with something creative. We're going to have some really, really, really good Call of Duty League.
Well, I'm so excited over the next 2 weeks. And then obviously we'll come back next week to sort of revitalize this bracket once the first playoffs are through. So we can talk more about, I forget when it cuts off, but we'll know a lot more in our next episode. I think real quick, we'll just talk about our sleepers. So I think that the teams that can make noise that not a lot of people are talking about, obviously I think the Ultra's a legit pick for a sleeper, like all bias aside. They might not go to elimination round 5, but I think they're right up there. And then I think other than Ultra, I expect either the Subliners or Optic to make noise. Those are sort of our teams outside of the top 4. I think Optic Gaming could actually go decently far in this tournament. We still didn't beat Chicago last time. They almost beat the Ultra as well. They got smoked by FaZe, but FaZe is just better. That's fine. And I think New York wasn't in that previous tournament, but if they were, they can definitely make some noise. I think New York won a chip 2 tournaments ago, and with Mac in the lap, they're a really good team, especially in this meta.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And then, my sleeper pick is Minnesota Roker, as like I said, they played really well in the past. They tapered off a little bit, but they have that potential that's sitting there. And it's somebody like God RX, you have to have something big up your sleeve, like I said earlier. Yeah. That's why I think they're the pick.
And I think we both are in agreement that and for the favorites, I think money down, gun to our heads, who do we have to pick? I think we both pick Atlanta FaZe, and we've sort of covered that. So, I don't know about you, Chris, but I think that's been a really good preview episode. You have anything else to add here before we sort of end it?
No, I think we fit everything on the head there.
Awesome.
What? If you guys liked this, leave it a comment, subscribe, hit that like icon. If you didn't like it, also leave a comment. We're down to talk. We're down to chat about who you guys think is the best.
Yeah, and I was going to say, tell us your sleeper picks. Tell us who you think is going to win, and how far can the Ultra go in champs, and what are you expecting? So let us all that in the conversation. Sorry, not in the conversation. In the comment section below, and we always love those conversations, and we always respond to any comments that we do receive. So with that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I hope you enjoyed.